This is Horror Sucks, the podcast where we watch horror movies and tell you why they suck. I'm Ashley Atkins, and I forgot what I was going to say.
I'm Carter Rhodes, and we lied to you last week. We're not recording this the day after Jeepers Creepers because it snowed or something. I don't remember.
It snowed and the roads were bad.
So here we are, the
3 days
Sunday. Jeepers Creepers came out in record time for Ashley, at least. I'm very impressed.
Thank you. I wanted it to come out that day, but that was
It was trivia. I knew you were like, it will come out tonight. I'm like, no, it won't. There's no way.
I've missed trivia to work on the podcast, but
not this week.
No, it wasn't worth it.
Second place too. Damn it.
To be honest, actually,
you should have stayed home.
Part of the reason it didn't come out was because I was downloading it before trivia onto my computer, and it didn't It took like a half hour just for it to be fail, and I had to redo it. And by the time I left for trivia, it was still downloading. Luckily, that time it worked at least.
So apparently, I don't think we said what episode we were gonna do, right?
Did we say
in the Jeepers Creepers? I don't think we did. So...
Oh, no, I had to cut it out because we said Saw.
Yeah, so what happened was I was like, it was my turn to pick, and all the ones I was excited for, which is Resident Evil and Cabin Fever.
Yeah.
Those were ones I wanted to look at as a series, and neither of us have it in us to watch.
Not on a short notice.
Yeah, it was the shortest one was going to be Cabin Fever, and that's I want to watch the first, the second, and the remake.
Of course.
So that's 3 movies. Resident Evil's 8 or 9.
That is gonna be probably over the summer when we have time to watch.
Honestly, we're probably gonna have to set aside a Resident Evil couple months, and we
still have to finish Friday the 13th series.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah. Let's try that. Let's try doing a Friday the 13th episode and then a Resident Evil kind of mini series and see which one comes out better.
I'm tempted by the mini series.
But yeah, the plan was we were gonna watch Saw just because that's what I've been watching recently. I thought I'd dodge having more responsibilities. I watched 2 minutes of Saw and I'm like, I don't want to do this. I've already seen this movie and Saw's fine. There's just not going to be very much interesting commentary about it. At its core, it's just people standing around in a room for a while.
I've never seen it, but I believe you.
Honestly, Saw 2 is when the series kind of picks up because they have the budget and the idea at that point.
So instead, we settled on My Bloody Valentine.
3D.
3D, yes.
The 2009 version, not the 1980s.
Actually, I think we did talk about this movie because I think I brought up the fact that I didn't like it because I had seen 10 minutes of the original and was like, nope, turned it off. But I didn't realize there was a remake in 2009.
Starring Jensen Ackles.
Yes, 10 out of 10. So just him, not the movie. But I was very pleased.
He is also a 10 out of 10.
Yeah.
So, let's get into it because I've been dying to talk about this movie all week.
Before we do, little how this works for those people who are new here. We watch a movie, we'll give you the plot, some fun facts, then we go over the good, the bad, and the spooky. We wrap it up with the Joe DeStasio Memorial Line highlight, as well as our overall impressions and a rating. And with that...
First of all, a little teaser news. Coming up, we're going to be watching the Scream episode. Not going to spoil anything, but it might not be a Memorial Line highlight anymore. I'll leave you to think about what that might mean. Anyway, it's time to talk about the plot. So, in 1997, there's an explosion at the Hanniger mine, which traps 6 miners. The only survivor is named Harry Warden, and he survives by killing the others to conserve oxygen, but ends up falling into a coma when he's rescued. So they do some investigating, and they find out that the explosion was caused by the mine owner's son, Tom Hanniger, who improperly vented the methane lines, causing a buildup and an explosion. But it was an accident, so it's not like he went to jail. It's just A year later, on Valentine's Day, Harry Warden wakes up from his coma and goes on a killing spree. The sheriffs say, "Where's he going?" And he goes, "He's going back to the mine." Meanwhile, in an insanely tasteless party, Tom, his girlfriend Sarah, and their friends Irene and Axel are having like this high school party at the mine. Warden shows up, kills some of them, and Irene, Axel, and Sarah drive away, leaving Tom just all on his own to get killed by Warden. He runs into the mine, and just before he gets killed by Warden, the sheriff appears and shoots him. Shoots Warden. Warden runs off, seemingly escaping. He disappears, but Tom survives. 10 years later. So there's been like 2 or 3 cold opens at this point.
Yeah.
10 years later, Tom's father has died, and Tom, having left long ago, returns to sell the mine because he's now the majority owner. And people are just absolutely fucking losing it that this man might want to sell a coal mine. Like, they go out of their way to call it, like, a nowheresville town. They're like, who would want to live here? We live in the middle of nowhere. This is like an inbred rural, their words, inbred rural
The mine is the only thing they have, according to them.
And they're like, your dad would roll over in his grave if you found out you were selling this coal mine that people died in. And I'm like, I can understand being upset, but like, what are they repurposing the coal mine for? Surely they're just going to keep digging for coal, right?
Right.
It's not like getting demolished for luxury condos.
No, I think what they're upset about is the fact that whoever buys it is going to bring in new people to work it. And, you know, they said they were going to buy out some of the contracts and keep people on for at least 3 months. But I'm like, most likely they're going to end up keeping them on, right?
Yeah, we did not grow up in a coal mine town, but how many new people are they going to bring in?
Right.
Like maybe some executives and specialists, but the quote-unquote grunt work, no way it's cheaper or smarter for them to just ship in people.
Yeah. It doesn't, and it probably makes sense to keep some of the people
they have experience. Yeah.
Right. It's not like he's selling it because it's doing poorly. Mm-hmm. He's selling it because he doesn't want the responsibility of owning it.
Yeah, he doesn't want any attachments to this town. Anyway, so people are just losing their minds at the fact that Tom, who's like, they have very ambiguous ages, by the way. They're like on high school, and then just 10 years later, they're like, Axel's the sheriff and all that. They have kids. It's abrupt. So anyway, Axel's the sheriff, and he's married Sarah because when Tom left town, he left Sarah. Irene's just out and about, living her not-so-best life. Axel's cheating on Sarah with her employee, Megan. It's so immediately clear. Like, Sarah walks by, and Megan's, like, giving him the eyes. And I'm like, you are in a diner, sir. So, Tom gets there late and can't sign the papers to sell it, so he stays at a nearby motel where Irene is there and having sex. And she ends up getting murdered by a man dressed as a miner. You're
not gonna diminish this incredible scene where she runs across the
apartment. We're gonna break it apart
completely
in the scene.
Nude.
Yeah.
All right, we'll talk about it later, but.
So anyway, in that scene, she's having sex with just some trucker guy, and turns out he was recording. And so she gets a gun out of her purse and sprints across the parking lot completely naked to threaten him. He's like, I know that gun's not loaded, even though not saying she wasn't justified, but I would, if a naked woman ran at me with a gun, I would be like, she's clearly capable of doing anything.
Yeah. She's running after them because he took a secret sex tape of her.
Yeah.
And then tried to pay her for it.
Yeah, and then, he did pay her for it. He threw the money and walked away. So then he gets killed by the miner, and then she runs and hides. There's a whole thing. Anyway, her and some random woman are all murdered by a man dressed as a miner. And later, Axel receives a Valentine's chocolate box with a human heart in it. So for some reason, Tom decides not to sell the mine. And when he goes to the mine to talk to the manager.
Sarah convinced him.
Yeah. She was like, coal's the future. So he he goes to the mine to tell the manager that he's changed his mind. And while there, with just some random employee who's showing him around, the miner shows up, uses his pickaxe to kind of trap Tom in this little cage device, and murders the dude that Tom's with. Tom, when he's rescued, everyone's like, okay, well, obviously you couldn't have done this. He was locked in here. Tom believes that Warden's returned, but Axel's like, that's not possible. And he reveals that after Warden was shot, the sheriffs, because there's like a sheriff and a backup sheriff, they have very unclear roles, but
I think it was the sheriff and the deputy and one other person.
I guess so. But anyway, the old cops track down Warden and extrajudicially execute him, let's say. They kill him and then bury him. And so he's like, it can't be Warden. So he goes to show him the grave, but the grave's been destroyed. And it could be animals, but it also looks like Warden's back. Axel deduces that the killer must be someone who knew of the grave. For some reason, he suspects Tom, even though
he has no reason to suspect Tom other than the fact that he doesn't like her and that Tom does flirt with Sarah and they have a history. Like,
Axel's a terrible cop. Like, yeah. Corruptness aside, he's a bad investigator. He came to a conclusion and, like, ignored evidence to support it. So anyway, he's like, yeah, Tom, even though Tom didn't know where it is, surely he's the one responsible.
Right.
So Tom decides that he's going to track down Warden, and he's investigating the area around the mine, and he finds Axel's bang shack, which is where he and Megan have been banging.
It's an old hunting shack.
Yeah, bang shack. And meanwhile, the miner is attacking Sarah and Megan at a grocery store where they work. Long story short, he kills Megan, and then Axel arrives, just in the nick of time. The movie really doesn't frame it like a how'd you get here so fast kind of thing. Like, it didn't even occur to me that they were implying that he might have been the killer until after Tom accused him in the car.
I kind of picked up on that it was like, how do you get... But then he would have been covered in blood, so...
Well, that's what the mind gear's for.
I guess it's true because it covers his face, huh?
Yeah. So anyway, Sarah goes to the hospital. I don't remember what Axel's doing at this point. And Tom goes to the hospital and convinces Sarah to come with him because he's got to show her something. Specifically, Axel's bang shack. And on the drive, he tells her, I think Axel's the killer. And then Axel calls Sarah and tells her, Tom spent the last 7 years, I remember because that was a weird number. Everything was nice around 10, and then like 7 years. He'd spent the last 7 years in a mental institution. My headcanon was that it was for like severe depression.
Yeah.
which would make it that much funnier that he's like, and he's crazy sad. So Sarah crashes the car to escape because now she thinks Tom's the killer, and she makes it to the bang shack. And while there, she discovers just dozens upon dozens of empty Valentine gift boxes that the killer was putting hearts in. So she realizes that the killer must be living here. The miner appears behind her, and he chases her into the mines. She sets up an ambush and hits someone running by. It turns out to be Axel. He drops his gun, and she grabs it. And Axel and Tom appear. And they're both, like, pointing at each other like, he's the killer. No, he's the killer. And in his attempt to convince her, Tom reveals that he knows how Megan dies, even though he shouldn't have known about that. So she's like, Tom, how do you know? And he starts watching as Harry Warden approaches behind her, and he passes right through her and walks up to him, and it's revealed that Harry Warden is like a hallucination inside his mind. So there's a whole struggle, and Sarah shoots Tom, and the bullet goes through him and hits a bunch of gas canisters behind him. There's an explosion and a subsequent cave-in. Axel and Sarah survive, and they're
by the will of God.
Yeah, they're like, and Tom's dead. We know this for a fact. And meanwhile, Tom also survived and killed and wore a worker's gear, a rescue worker's gear to escape. And that's it.
All right.
Give us some fun facts.
I will say these are fun.
All right.
So first off, though, this movie was directed by Patrick Lussier, who's known for Drive Anything, Terminator Genesis, Dracula 2000, and an episode of Scream, the TV show.
What a miserable resume.
So then this movie stars the lovely Jensen Ackles as Tom. He's known for his roles on Supernatural, Alien Resurrection, The Boys, Carter's favorite.
He was in Alien Resurrection?
Apparently. Carter's favorite show, Days of Our Lives.
No, he was on Days of Our Lives. I didn't know that.
Yeah. Yep.
God, he's been in a lot.
He's been in a lot. He also was on Dawson Creek. And then we have Jamie King as... He
was really good in The Boys, too.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I haven't seen The Boys.
He plays really like kind of this gritty Captain America type guy where he's got like... He's from like the 40s and he's got the like 40s view on race and gender.
Oh, no.
and clearly has PTSD.
Yeah.
It's pretty entertaining. He does a great job of being like a little funny, but he's also he takes the role seriously.
The Boys is rather star-studded of like decent B actors.
To be fair, a lot of them, like, they got them before their career started. Like, Jack Quaid is big now.
Fair.
But he's partially big because of The Boys.
The guy from Gossip Girl's on there. What's his name? I forget his name. But
Carl Urban's on there.
But, okay, so this movie also stars Jamie King as Sarah, and she is from White Chicks, Heart of Dixie, and Black Summer.
God, I hated Heart of Dixie.
Did you watch it?
My sister watches a lot of trash, and that's where I pick up a lot. One time she was telling me about this TV show, and I admit I criticize her taste a lot, but so her being defensive was justified. But she's watching a show, and I don't recognize it, so I go, which show is this? And she goes, oh, they shop at thrift stores. And I go, Maddie, that was the worst elevator pitch I've ever heard in my fucking life. And she's like, you criticize everything. And I'm like...
Did you ever find the name of the show?
No, I didn't. I don't care to, either.
I think I know the show, but that's okay. It's not important.
It was the peak Netflix where they'll just greenlight anything if like you just stamp drama on it.
It's a one season show. I know what it is. She does indeed shop at thrift stores. Okay, so then we have Todd Farmer as the truck driver Frank. He's important because he was in Jason X. And also he was the screenwriter for this movie.
Nice. If I wrote a movie, I too would have a graphic sex scene in it.
So I have some fun facts exclusively related to that in a minute. Good. So we have Kara Smith as Axel, and he's from Cruel Intentions 3, Dawson's Creek as well, and Final Destination.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
I think he's also been doing a bunch of Hallmark movies. I didn't see it when I was looking.
Like the original Final Destination?
No, the third one. No, sorry. The original. Yes, the original.
Okay, maybe I don't know.
So lastly, we have the most important actor, Tom Atkins.
Yes. Yep. I have that in my notes.
Who is known for Halloween 3, Night of the Creeps. No, Creeps.
I'm sorry, is that the subtitle of Halloween 3, Night of the Creeps?
No, this is a different movie.
Good. Thank God.
And then The Fog. But, most importantly, he shares the name with my dad, Tom Atkins.
and
my brother, also Tom Atkins. And when I was writing out my notes, I went downstairs to my dad and looked at my dad in the face and said, man, you look really good for 87. Did you dye your hair? And he looks at me and goes, what? And I was like, see? And he just...
pranked you.
It was the dumbest prank ever, but you know what? It was worth it. Mm-hmm. My mom was like, you're not funny. My dad laughed. Like, it wasn't unappreciated. But, all right, now for fun facts. There's actually quite a bit. Mm-hmm. Or a good amount, I should say. So a flyer on the wall indicated that Saturday was Valentine's Day, so... That means that the day before was Friday the 13th.
I thought I could find some interesting, like, subsequent fun fact with that. Like, that means the year must have taken place, but it turns out it's like every 6 years that happens.
Yeah.
It was like could have happened in 2008, a year before the movie came out, and I'm like, never mind. It's not interesting.
It really doesn't matter. So Betsy Rue, who plays Irene, she said that in an interview that she doesn't regret the scene where she runs across the parking lot completely naked, and that she felt if she was going to do it, she was going to do it good.
Yep.
And she was happy about it because she got some pretty good reviews out of it. So no complaints there.
It was one of the few good parts of this movie.
Yeah. This is the first R-rated film in the US to be projected in 3D. Or it said Real D.
Okay. I was going to say
what is Real D versus...
I don't know. I think it's like a technical thing where, like, I believe it has something to do with the fact that 3D is the classic red eye, blue eye glasses, and Real D is kind of just the special glasses you wear.
But they still call it 3D?
They do, because...
Interesting.
Yeah. I think Real D describes the technology, but we just use 3D because that's what it is.
It's basically the same.
It's 3D,
you just don't need two color glasses. Got it.
I think it's kind of like how you call everything a DVD. Like,
that's fair.
Like, yeah, technically it's a CD. Technically it's a Blu-ray, but it's all DVDs.
Got it. Okay. So the screenwriter Todd Farmer plays the truck driver, and people joked that he wrote that scene so he could spend all that time with Betsy Rue naked. But it turns out the original scene was actually written a lot less graphic, a lot less nude, and Betsy Rue was like, "Nah, let's do it," and pushed for her to be fully nude. So debunked rumor, pretty funny though. And then let's see, the film was made into a haunted house at Universal's Halloween Horror Nights.
That actually sounds pretty decent.
Yeah,
like they set up a mine, and that would be cool.
Yeah,
I'd be afraid.
Me too. So Todd Farmer's wife, Melanie, is actually credited, or she's thanked in the credits for allowing her husband to get naked in that scene. Jensen Ackles wears the same jacket in Supernatural that he wears in this movie.
It's wild that I didn't notice that.
I don't know if it's the exact same or if it's just looks the same because they probably were like, hey, this is a good jacket.
Yeah. Honestly, I think my brain just, like...
accepted it, because that's what he looks
like. It accepted it like tattoos.
Yeah.
I'm just like, this is a part of his body that will continue through all movies.
Honestly. And then the last one is that the first two characters killed on screen are called Jason and Michael, and they are a slasher homage to... you know who. I don't need to say it.
I can't believe that they referenced one of the most famous things ever.
Both of them.
It's like having characters named Luke and Leia and being like, hey, did you guys know that's a Star Wars reference?
So part of the reasons they did a lot of references was because the original came out in 1981 and Halloween 2 came out in 1981. So they were like, they're the same. They're not. They're, you know, they're not connected really whatsoever. But yeah, that's it. Ready for...
the good. Dun, dun, dun. So, I think that this movie was pretty funny when it wasn't trying to be.
Yeah.
Like, Irene chasing after the guy naked with a gun was pretty funny. In, like, an absurdist kind of way. There's a... I don't remember exactly what happened, but I think in the supermarket, Megan had, like, a broom... and she just whacked the miner in the head with it.
She did, yes. I think it might have been... No, I think it was a broom. I was going to say it's a mop, but I don't think so.
Yeah, there's one where, like, he goes to, like, pickaxe one of them and they grab a frozen turkey or something and hit him. It was pretty campy and cheesy in, like, the right ways. Valentine's Day was a great choice because... it truly was tangential to the plot. It wasn't like this killer is on a rampage because he got snubbed on Valentine's Day. So it was borderline making fun of those, like, Halloween, Christmas murder movies. And it's like, just every so often it's like, by the way, it's Valentine's Day.
I truly enjoyed the fact that it wasn't related to Valentine's Day beyond the time of year.
Mm-hmm.
And I also really loved the fact that it was perfectly campy. It wasn't over the top. Or I don't even think it was really trying to be campy, which is what made it kind of camp. Like, they just were like, oh, let's,
And to that end, it was very gory, and that fits.
Yeah.
One of the characteristic things about campy horror movies is it has to have gratuitous gore and nudity.
Yeah. I will say, so normally I am the first to complain about nudity in horror, in movies in general. I will say I loved the nudity in this movie. It was
meant to be funny.
Yeah.
It was like, it wasn't trying to slip anything by you, as you were supposed to find it absurd.
Yeah, I thought it was really great.
Mm-hmm.
So, one thing I actually enjoyed about this movie was the plot.
Yeah.
I described it as a cross between a Hallmark movie, a whodunit, with a slasher twist. Like,
it was. I have some complaints about it, but the general structure of it was pretty solid.
Yeah, I really loved the hallmark of it all, of like, boy returns to hometown
and he
reconnects with high school sweetheart.
learns that he doesn't need to literally sell his hometown.
Yeah, I was living for it.
Yeah. And she had like a husband and a kid. Like, she clearly wasn't going to leave them for him.
I think if he stuck around long enough and she confronted him about his cheating, there was a possibility they could have gotten back together.
Yeah, maybe. Speaking of, Jensen Ackles being in this movie was great. His acting, to be honest, wasn't great in the movie. He's a solid actor, but in this it was not great.
Him as a whole, though, I just love him so much that I can forgive it.
Mm-hmm.
I thought he did a decent job at the end with the twist, where he was like trying to make you believe that he didn't think he was the killer.
I don't know. There was like, when he was, it's a problem in movies sometimes when actors know like the twist and have to pretend they don't and they can't do it. Is he didn't do a great job of convincing me he wasn't the killer, but
all right, I'll give that to you. I thought he did fine.
I mean, he's had quite a career to prove that was a fluke, so it's not a problem. But
he was a young actor at the time, so
wasn't he like 30?
Yeah, but it was young in his career. I guess not, because he started at Days of Our Lives. Never mind.
Everyone was so hard to get a read on as far as age goes.
Well, it's because we saw them at like, I want to say the party scene had to take place when they were 18.
Yeah.
And so then it's 10 years, so he's like 28-ish.
Yeah. And I looked it up, and the average sheriff's age was like 40. So it's not absurd that Axel's the sheriff, which just makes it that much more hard to get a read on. Is he 10 years out of high school, the sheriff, or was he 30 when the 10 years ago scene happened?
I don't think he was 30 when the 10 years ago scene
I don't think so either, but
I mean, no, I would say he's probably considered a young sheriff, but I think there was a little bit of he was the other sheriff's son, and therefore...
That was his dad?
Yeah, wasn't it?
I don't think so. I like the 3D effects, because...
I loved the 3D effects.
It had that thing that all, like, 2000s movies had where it's like, hey, did you remember you're watching a 3D movie? Let's point towards the screen. I haven't seen a movie do this. Like, usually they'll then move on and stop doing it. This and Friday the 13th Part 3 are the only movies that just are like, yeah, fuck it. You're gonna get it the whole movie.
Listen, you can't forget that it's a 3D movie.
Yeah.
There was a good stretch where I kind of forgot it was a 3D movie, and then it did exactly that, and I was like, that's right, that's right.
But then there would be some cool scenes to go along with it, like when he hits through the windshield, the glass would fall.
Yeah.
And so while the pickaxe was like right in your face, which was a little cheesy, it definitely, you could tell, even without 3D, that the glass was meant to add a layer of
dimension.
Yeah, it was supposed to, like, your eyes were supposed to put the glass where the screen was, and that further made the pickaxe come out at you. Mm-hmm. It was clever.
Yeah.
There was an axe cam at one point, but like on the handle. It was pretty cool. He would swing it and hit someone, and you would see him like the camera's mounted on the handle. I don't know how to elaborate on
That's
it.
okay. I don't remember it, so.
It was some of that Evil Dead creative filming that I like.
That.
Added to the movie. It wasn't like, hey, look what we can do.
Yeah.
And then the last thing I liked was when Jensen Ackles has gone full crazy and he's going through the mines. He's breaking the lights with a pickaxe, and as he does, whenever the lights flash as they go out, for a single frame, he's replaced in full miner gear with Harry Warden. And it was pretty subtle. It closer he gets, the longer it lasts. And I only saw it with the very last one.
You know what? I think I remember that. That was pretty good. Mm-hmm. So there's a couple other things that I really liked. I liked how action-packed this movie was at the beginning. Mm-hmm. It was very much in that second cold open, there was, gore and stuff happening. I liked that. I loved hating Axel.
Yeah.
He was just such a
I'm gonna get into
crappy
it,
dude.
It was wild that they just didn't even try to make him a likable character.
There's no redeemable qualities to him, but I loved hating him. I think mines are pretty creepy, so I liked the setting. Mm-hmm. And I really loved the idea of the teens going to party in the mine.
Yeah.
Because I just was like, they don't even have music with them.
Yeah.
They just kind of walk into the mine with beer. And it was like, oh, and the last thing I really liked was just the outfits from from specifically the second cold open.
All right. So you ready to talk about
the bad? So the worst thing about this movie was that I wasn't able to watch it in 3D.
That's true. I couldn't find any way to watch it in 3D.
I tried to. I thought this would be great. I have 3D glasses
The title
at home.
is My Bloody Valentine 3D.
Right. It would have been worth seeing it.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways.
I want to talk about how fucking unlikable Axel is. He's he's a cheater.
Right.
Right off the bat, they established that.
Yep.
He's illogical and just doesn't like Tom. He's like, I bet he fucking killed him, even though Tom was locked in the cage, trapped when people showed up, and they said to Axel, they're like, yeah, he couldn't have done it. We had to pry him out of the cage, which we later found out that he pried himself in, but
even still, he got lucky. It wasn't like he did the detective work well.
Yes.
This is why Tom's the guy. He just really was like, yeah, I've got a bad hunch about him. And it's just because he was jealous that he used to date his wife.
Yep.
Which is so hypocritical.
Yeah.
Considering he's cheating on her.
Yes. He's like, the whoever's the killer must have known where the grave is. Must be you, Tom, even though we came out here to show you where the grave was.
Again, he got lucky because we saw a scene where Tom went and dug up the grave.
He just jumps to conclusions, ignores all evidence against them, and ignores all evidence that points to someone else. His deputy had a lot of evidence against him. He was around the mines when there was the murder. Yep. He was one of the few people who knew where the grave was.
Yeah.
He was one of two people who knew where the grave was and wasn't 80 years old.
Right.
The other person was Axel.
Yeah.
So he just ignored that, and he's like, Tom, that piece of shit. And he's just a bad sheriff. He doesn't have any good qualities. He's not funny or clever or interesting. No. He's just going around banging some cafeteria lady and then going home and lying to his wife and being a bad policeman.
Cafeteria lady is a very interesting
I meant grocery lady. Grocer, I guess, is the word.
I think it's so much worse that, it's his wife's employee.
Yeah, she works for his wife. But, and he also gets her pregnant, and then... Yeah.
Is she pregnant?
Yes. He goes, oh, I didn't get you anything. In just what was the most, obvious, you're a side bitch subtext. She's like, here, I got you this card. And he's like, oh, damn. Well, I can't spend Valentine's Day with you because, the wife. And I also didn't get you anything. But thanks for having sex with me.
Yeah.
And so she's like, she's like, you don't have to get me anything. I'm pregnant. And then he just like walks away and the movie never discusses it.
I didn't even notice it.
Yeah.
That's wild. Yeah, he was a piece of garbage.
And it was just so frustrating that he like quote unquote won.
Yeah.
I was gonna be like absolutely seething if then Sarah realized that like he's the love of her life. She doesn't need to be with Tom. It's like the only good news is that she knows that he was cheating on her.
Yeah, at least she figured that out. It seemed like she knew ahead of time, but
the movie,
all of it.
I don't really have much to elaborate on, but the movie is weirdly pro coal mining. They're like, look at this piece of shit trying to sell this coal mine. He had this whole character arc about not selling it. It's just odd.
It was the Hallmark aspect.
I guess so, yeah.
I didn't understand the whole, like, looking for the body plot and, like, what that really did for the story.
It didn't add much.
No, it just kind of gave us something to do, I guess, but...
And that kind of ties into one of my issues with the movie, is that it's very straightforward. Is like, they just try to go to places and then get there.
Yeah.
Is like, the movie didn't try to lead us to believe anything. It never tried to seriously convince us that Harry Warden was back. It only half-assed tried to imply that Axel or Tom was the killer.
Right.
Is we were just kind of presented with evidence for a while, and then it was revealed. Is it never was like, uh-oh, Tom. Maybe he's the killer.
Right. Yeah, it was kind of like with that, a lack of tension.
Mm-hmm.
There was a hypothetical mystery, but it really wasn't.
There's just no misleads. Is it just kind of...
Yes,
It was
definitely.
very surface level stuff. And like, there was no build up. There's no increasing, like, belief that it was someone. Is Axel's just like, it's Tom, it's Tom, it's Tom. And then eventually you find out it's Tom.
Yeah. Also, I have an issue with Tom being the killer. It was kind of improbable. I felt a little bit. Like, him locking himself in the cage was just like...
It's one of those plot, like, this exists so that we can have the plot twist.
Yeah,
I think the reason behind it is I believe Axel was the killer in the original.
Oh.
But the movie didn't frame it as, like, a subversion or anything.
Right.
It didn't lead us to think it would be Axel.
No.
It was only people who had seen the original would know that. And then even then, watching it, they wouldn't think it was Axel.
No, I just kind of was like, felt both of them where it was like, oh, who could it be between the two? And I was like, is it really either of them? It wasn't like I don't know. It was like...
It's the bad kind of whodunit.
Yeah.
Where it's like, this movie could tell me it's anyone, and I'd be like, okay.
Yeah.
But it's not leading me to any conclusion. Knives Out was a really good example of a movie that it did hit you with a plot twist, but it was leading you somewhere, and you didn't know where you were going. But it was clear that things were being unraveled beyond your comprehension. And that's what a good mystery is.
For any new listeners, Carter's a very big Knives Out,
I mean,
Glass Onion fan.
Yeah, I am.
You just... I feel like you bring it up every episode.
Well, it's a masterclass on tension and...
I'm only teasing
Yeah,
you.
well, I mean, it is a good opportunity for me to rant about it, too, though. It's just a great lesson on, like, leading the viewer to expect one thing and changing it in a way that isn't the, like, ooh, bet you didn't see that coming.
Yeah.
It's the perfect amount of mislead that turns out to be truly that, a mislead. It doesn't feel like the director lied to you.
No, exactly,
Is he put down breadcrumbs and then crackers, and you were picking up crackers. But rewatching either movie, you can see exactly what was you mistakenly believing this.
This podcast is secretly a
I'm a Ryan Johnson fan.
dedication to Knives Out. All right. There were some really bad special effects in this movie.
The blood was way too sticky, and then the just horrible explosion CGI.
There was one CGI where in the first cold open where he sliced into this girl's head and it just kind of slid forward on what is an axe?
It was a shovel. Yep. Mm-hmm.
But it looked so bad.
Yeah.
I can't forgive it.
The beginning, like, exposition where it's like, 6 dead in the mine. While I enjoyed how fast it moved, it was like very much just throwing information at us.
I hated it.
Yeah.
I did not like that.
There was like 2 or 3 cold opens. But the weirdest thing to me was they set up people being murdered. And then when he returned, people are like fighting him in bars. Like they needed to establish conflict when they've already established murder.
Right.
And then my most, like, really the most brutal thing I could say about this movie is there was no subversion.
Yeah.
Is even the jump scares, like, it's looking at a window, and you're like, oh, I bet something's gonna pop out of the window. And it pops out of the window.
Yeah.
And it doesn't even, like, really take its time with it. Is the timing is easy to predict. What's going to happen is going to easy to predict. They go to the mine, and the mine's spooky. Like, things jump out of the dark. There's nothing really new about it.
No.
Keep
going.
Just very cliche.
Yeah.
Like, even just in dialogue, they're like, you're gonna want to see this sheriff. Like, how did you know Megan was dead? I didn't tell you that. And then she'd hide under beds to avoid the killer. Oh, the killer being in his head was stupid.
She hid under the bed and stuck her foot out for like a long time.
She took her time.
Pulled it in right as he walked through the door. It was stupid.
Yep. It wasn't. It was some pretty bad acting, but I don't have much to elaborate on. It just wasn't good.
It was medium.
It wasn't funny when it tried to be funny. Like the loud sex was.
Because that's not funny.
Yeah.
Versus.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was like, man, that would be annoying if I rented that room next to them.
Right. Also with that, I think actually annoyed with some of the evidence against Tom. They like have like the video of the sex and you can see him walking past the room and it's like, oh, this is clearly evidence against him. And it was like, you already knew he was staying there. Like that, how does this prove that he was the minor? Like
man walks by window towards motel room he rented with his real name.
Right.
Oh man. Make sure the jury sees this one.
You know, it would be one thing if he put down a fake name and then it was like, wait a minute, he was there. That
if he was trying to hide the fact that he was there, that's interesting.
Right.
But they didn't do that. And then the last thing I have to say about this movie is they really did Irene dirty.
Yeah.
Like, everyone else went on to do stuff.
And Irene just was...
banging dudes in motels. I'm like, she wasn't portrayed as, like, a skank in the beginning.
Not really.
She just looked like a normal person.
She was like I think like the party girl one of the group, but
they didn't establish it enough.
I don't think they did enough either. They also really did her dirty with her makeup when she got older. Yeah. Like she looked old.
Yeah, it was awful makeup.
I was like, oh, the rest of them still look pretty young, and she looks like she's aged like.
She looked in her like 40s.
Yeah, I was like. They did her dirty. It was so sad.
Just every chance they got to cheap shot her.
They did.
And I was like, she didn't do anything. Like, she told Axel to be nice. Like, she seemed nice.
She was enough. Good friend to Sarah.
Yeah.
Like.
It was weird that they're like, look at this piece of shit, Irene. Aren't you glad she's dead?
Yeah. Okay. Are you ready for...
The spooky! Yeah, I don't have much.
I have one scene.
I do. It's the scene when she discovers the Valentine's boxes and they're falling down. She's looking at it, horrified, thinking, oh no, is Axel the killer? And then behind her, the door opens, and all you see is a silhouette with a helmet and a light on it. And you know that's a minor. They did a pretty good job of playing with the stereotypical mining clothes and framing it in the dark with the light.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a good scene. I had a feeling you would use that. Beyond that, I didn't really find much particularly, but one jump scare that I actually kind of enjoyed was, I think, the first one where he pickaxes right through the guy's head and the eyeball shoots out.
Yeah, that was like, I was like, this is gonna set the tone for the movie.
Yeah, and it did, but I enjoyed it.
So, here's my overall thoughts. Honestly, I found this movie to be nice and cheesy.
Yeah.
It was like, it was bad, but it was bad in a pretty good way. It was bad because it had too much gore, and I liked it. I didn't think it was high quality, but it was a fun watch.
My overall thoughts were fun, and I wished I saw it in 3D.
Yeah. If there was some good jump scares, I think I would have really liked this movie.
Sure.
But I think it has the framework to be a pretty good movie.
Yeah.
Anyway, I liked that it centered around Valentine's Day because it was funny. It tied into a movie in a silly, wacky way. So my Joseph D'Astasio temporarily memorial highlight is just Happy fucking Valentine's Day. There's really not a lot of great lines in this movie.
There was not much here.
So, overall, I would give this movie, I don't know, artistically, probably like 3 minds sold, but from an enjoyment perspective, probably like 6 dead truckers banging in a motel.
Jesus.
It was a fun watch. I enjoyed it. It's probably good with friends.
Yeah. No, I gave this movie a 6. 6 pickaxes to the head.
Yep. It's just just looking at it objectively, it's not very good, but it's fun.
It's enjoyable, yeah. Which is, I mean, if you want to watch a fun movie, here it is. Like,
it's kind of like whenever you see someone dressed up in like 90s, early 2000s clothes, and you're like, objectively, this is ugly, but it's super fun and nostalgic.
Yeah.
Like those sweaters you see that look like the styrofoam movie theater cups.
Those are fun.
Yeah, I enjoyed it, but I can't truly, recommend it. It's just a fun watch.
Yeah.
Let me know if you find a way to watch it in 3D, please.
Yeah, I will. I would rewatch it just to watch it in 3D.
Yeah, honestly.
Any?
No, except the happy reminder that you are the one picking the next movie.
I was not prepared.
Yeah. The week after we're doing Scream.
I know.
But this one's actually gonna count.
Shoot. Willy's Wonderland. Oh, it's an action movie? Action horror. Nick Cage goes into a old, like, Chuck E. Cheese, basically, to clean it in exchange for getting his car fixed, and the animatronics come to life.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, looks decent. In Nicolas Cage's redemption arc. I'm willing to see it. See where this goes.
I think it's a fun Nick Cage movie.
Yeah.
My dad and I watched it together and enjoyed it.
Okay,
so.
Sure. Let's hear about it.
Okay. All right. Either that, or actually, have you watched American Horror Stories?
Yes. Oh, no.
So I recommend that. That's actually really good. I haven't watched all of them, but I'll watch them every now and again with my dad. And every time we're like, wow, this is a good concept. It'd be really good in short format. Those are all like, wow, this is a really good concept. It would be a good movie.
Yeah.
Every time I watch it, but it's pretty good. I watched one last night where it was like this guy kidnaps women and makes them pretend to be dolls to try and figure out who would be a good mother for his son.
Weird.
It was weird, but it was good. But yeah.
One of my favorite things is on Netflix. They have like a 2-sentence horror series.
Oh, I didn't think I watched that.
Oh, I love it because the concept of 2-sentence horror is to shrink a concept into literally 2 sentences. And so that means stripping away all the unnecessary parts.
Yeah.
And then the concept of taking that and trying to expand it is like, I'm trying to, like when you just scroll in on an image trying to enhance it is like it just gets worse and worse quality.
Oh, that might be what I spend my evening doing while I play Disco Elysium.
It's a lot of fun. Yeah, that's right. Ashley's gonna play Disco Elysium.
Yeah, I can't wait. Mm-hmm. I'm gonna edit this episode first.
Yep. Good answer.
Before I do that, but I think we can wrap up here now.
Yeah. I don't have any new stuff, so let's watch some Nicolas Cage stuff.
Okay. Well, thank you all for listening. We really appreciate it.
Make sure you guys tune in for our Scream episode. We're hoping to have that out. When is that going to release?
So, Scream comes out on March 10th, and
probably the 15th.
Yeah.
Honestly, I might release it early. Just try to get ahead of the wave, just as soon as
it
it's
might
ready.
Be worth it. But yeah. Also,
that'll be our thank you for putting up with the late episodes.
Yeah. Also, like, if you like what you hear, share it with your friends. And thank you for those who have commented on our YouTube. We appreciate that. And
stay spooky.
Yeah. Horror Sex is brought to you by Wild Thing Media. Editing